When my husband asked me to sit down for a serious talk, I thought he was going to say he'd lost his job, or maybe that we needed counseling. Instead, he looked at me with that calm, reasonable face I trusted for 7 years and said, "I've already asked your sister to be my girlfriend." She said yes. I laughed at first. A short, sharp sound that didn't feel like it came from me. Girlfriend? My sister? Well, still married to me. But he didn't laugh back. He didn't even flinch. He just nodded, like he told me we were switching internet providers. My stomach dropped as I realized this wasn't a joke. This wasn't a confession. This was an announcement. That was the moment my marriage didn't just crack. It shattered. And the worst part wasn't that he wanted my sister. It was how prepared he sounded, as if I was the last person in the room to be informed about a decision that would destroy my life. Before that night, my marriage looked normal. Not perfect, not like the couples on Instagram who smiled too hard and posed too often, but real. Ryan and I had been married for 7 years. We had routines, shared bills, inside jokes that only made sense to us. We fought about laundry and money, then made up over takeout on the couch. I thought that meant we were solid. My younger sister, Lily, had moved in 3 months earlier after her apartment flooded. It was supposed to be temporary, just until repairs were done. She slept in our guest room, used our shower, ate our food. I told myself it was the least I could do. She was my sister. Family helps family. At first, everything felt harmless. Lily laughed a lot. Ryan liked that. He said it lightened the mood after my long workdays. I noticed how he'd linger in the kitchen when she was there, how their conversations stretched just a little longer than mine and his had lately. I noticed, but I dismissed it. Because I trusted them. I was working more hours than usual then. A promotion was finally within reach, and I didn't want to mess it up. Some nights I came home exhausted, brain buzzing, feet aching, and all I wanted was silence. Ryan said he understood. Lily said she admired me. Sometimes I'd walk into the living room and see the two of them laughing on the couch. Too close, maybe, but again, she was my sister. I told myself not to be paranoid. I told myself I was lucky to have a husband who was kind and an easygoing sister who got along with him. Looking back now, I can see the cracks. The way Lily started making Ryan coffee in the mornings, but not me. The way Ryan stopped asking how my day was and started telling Lily about his. The way conversations would suddenly stop when I entered the room, followed by quick smiles that felt rehearsed. There were nights I lay in bed beside my husband, staring at the ceiling, wondering why I felt lonely while lying next to the person I married. I blamed myself. I told myself marriage goes through phases, that this was just one of them. I had no idea that while I was questioning my worth, my husband and my sister were quietly rewriting my life behind my back, deciding where I fit into it and how easily I could be replaced. Ryan waited until after dinner. That alone should have warned me. He turned off the TV, muted his phone, and patted the empty space beside him on the couch like he was about to explain a complicated bill or a scheduling conflict. "We need to talk," he said. Those 4 words still make my chest tighten. I sat down, folding my hands in my lap, already bracing myself. My mind ran through possibilities, money trouble, stress, maybe counseling. Anything but what came next. "I've already asked your sister to be my girlfriend," Ryan said evenly. "And she said yes." For a second, my brain refused to process the sentence. It sounded like a foreign language. Girlfriend. Sister. Already asked. Yes. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, for the awkward laugh that would tell me this was some tasteless joke. "What?" I said. That was all I could manage. He sighed like I was the one being difficult. "I knew this would be hard for you to hear. Hard to hear. Like bad news at work. Like a delayed flight." "Ryan," I said slowly, "I'm your wife." "I know," he replied, nodding. "And this doesn't change that." That's when I laughed. I couldn't stop it. It burst out of me, sharp and brittle, because the alternative was screaming. "You're joking," I said. "You have to be joking." "I'm not," he said calmly. "I've put a lot of thought into this." A lot of thought. More than he'd put into asking me how I felt lately. My hands started shaking. "So let me get this straight," I said. "You're telling me that you want to date my sister while still married to me." "Yes," he said. "But before you react, hear me out. Hear him out." That was when Lily walked in from the kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee. She handed one to Ryan. She didn't offer me one. She sat down next to him, close enough that their knees touched, and smiled at me like she was about to deliver good news. "Hey, sis," she said softly. "We didn't want you to feel blindsided." Blindsided? I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. "You knew about this?" I asked her, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded. "Of course. We wanted to be honest." Honest. After weeks, months, of whatever this was. Ryan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, adopting the same tone he used in work meetings. This isn't cheating, he said. That's important. I would never cheat on you. That's why we're doing this the right way. The right way? I repeated. Yes, he said. Openly. Ethically. Ethically. The word echoed in my head as my world tilted. I looked from my husband to my sister. My sister. Watching them sit there so calm, so united, while my heart slammed against my ribs like it was trying to escape. And in that moment, before he explained anything else, before the plans and the justifications and the rules, I understood something terrifying. They weren't asking for my permission. They were informing me of my replacement. Ryan stood up without waiting for my response and walked toward the coffee table. I thought he was giving me space until he opened his laptop. I figured visuals might help, he said, like he was doing me a favor. My stomach dropped. On the screen was a clean white slide with a bold title at the top. Our New Family Dynamic. Under was a photo from last Christmas, Ryan in the middle, Lily on one side, me on the other. I remembered that moment. I'd thought we looked happy. I've really thought this through. Ryan continued, clicking to the next slide. Emotionally and practically. Emotionally. Practically. Like love was a workflow problem. Bullet points appeared, shared responsibilities, improved communication, balanced emotional support. I couldn't even read them properly. My vision was starting to blur. Lily leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. This could actually be good for you, she said gently. You've been under so much pressure at work lately. Good for me. How? I asked, my voice tight. Well, she said, glancing at Ryan like they were co-presenters, if I help take care of Ryan's needs, that takes pressure off you. You won't have to feel guilty for being tired all the time. My husband's needs? Ryan nodded seriously. Exactly. This way, no one feels neglected. He clicked again. A color-coded schedule filled the screen. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he said, pointing to blue blocks. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Lily, he continued, pointing to pink ones. And Sundays, he said with a small smile. We spend together. As a family. As a family. I stood up so fast the room spun. You made a schedule, I said. For dating my sister. Ryan looked confused by my tone. It's just a structure. Structure helps reduce conflict. Conflict. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think the problem here is poor scheduling? Lily crossed her arms. You're reacting emotionally, she said. We knew you might. That's when I realized they'd rehearsed this. Every word. Every response. Ryan clicked again. A new slide appeared. Numbers, percentages, neat columns. Lily will contribute 30% of household expenses as an official partner, he explained. 3 incomes means more financial security. Our savings, I said slowly. You're talking about our savings. He smiled. Exactly. This is actually more efficient. Efficient. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. When I asked, did you decide all this? They exchanged a glance. Just a second, but it told me everything. We've been talking for a while, Lily admitted. We didn't want to rush you. Weeks. Maybe longer. And you didn't think, I said, my voice shaking now, that I deserved to be part of those conversations? Ryan frowned, like I was missing the point. We wanted to come to you with a complete solution, not half-formed feelings. That was it. That was the moment the truth settled in my bones. They hadn't come to me because they cared about how I felt. They came to me because the plan was finished, and now they needed me to agree to it. I don't remember sitting back down, but suddenly I was on the edge of the armchair, my hands gripping the fabric like it was the only solid thing left in the room. The laptop screen was still glowing, frozen on that cheerful schedule, as if it had the power to turn betrayal into something neat and manageable. Lily was the first to break the silence. I know this feels shocking, she said softly, tilting her head the way she used to when she wanted something from me. But if you're really honest with yourself, you have to admit things haven't been great between you and Ryan for a while. There it was. What do you mean? I asked, though I already knew. She shrugged, pretending it was obvious. You're always working. You come home exhausted. Half the time you're answering emails in bed. She smiled apologetically. Ryan's told me how lonely he's felt. My chest tightened. Ryan, I said slowly, has never told me that. Ryan didn't look at me. He stared at the floor instead. I didn't want to pressure you, he said. You've been stressed enough. So instead, I snapped. You talked to my sister? Lily stepped in smoothly. He needed someone who would listen, she said. And I was already here. Already here. In my house. In my life. I looked at her, really looked at her, and suddenly memories rearranged themselves in my mind like puzzle pieces clicking into place. The late-night conversations in the kitchen. The way she always seemed to know when Ryan was upset before I did. The way she'd casually mention things about my marriage that I'd never told her. How long? I asked. She hesitated just a fraction too long. Feelings don't follow a timeline, she said carefully. That was answer enough. Ryan finally looked up. This isn't about replacing you, he said quickly. It's about expanding what we have. Expanding. Lily nodded eagerly. There's enough love to go around. You don't have to see this as losing something. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. You're telling me, I said, that I should be grateful you're sleeping with my husband? She flinched. We're not sleeping together, she said too fast. Not yet. We wanted to talk to you first. First. After everything else. Ryan reached for my hand, and I pulled it back. Don't, I said. Just don't. Lily's expression changed then. The softness drained away, replaced by something sharper. You can't honestly say you've been a great wife lately, she said. You're never around. You don't make him feel wanted. Someone had to. The words hit harder than I expected. Not because they were true, but because they were meant to hurt. Someone had to? I repeated, my voice breaking. And you decided that someone should be you? She crossed her arms. I'm just being honest. You've been taking him for granted for years. Ryan didn't stop her. He didn't defend me. He just sat there, silent, letting my sister tear me apart piece by piece. That was when it finally sank in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't about love or ethics or open communication. This was my sister looking me in the eye and telling me I deserved to be replaced, and my husband agreeing with her by saying nothing at all. I don't know how long we sat there after that. The room felt smaller, heavier, like the air itself was pressing down on my chest. Ryan and Lily waited. That was the strangest part. They waited, as if my silence was just another step in their process. Well, Ryan finally asked. His tone was careful now, practiced. Say something. I looked at him and felt something inside me go very still. You planned all of this, I said slowly. The schedule, the budget, the excuses. You didn't come to me because you wanted my feelings. You came to me because you wanted my compliance. That's not fair, Lily said quickly. We were trying to be considerate. Considerate? I stood up again, my hands shaking. You slept in my house. You ate at my table. You smiled at me every day while you were telling my husband I wasn't good enough. Ryan rubbed his temples. You're spiraling, he said. This is exactly why we wanted to handle this calmly. That word again. Calmly. You don't get to decide how I react to being betrayed. I snapped. You don't get to turn this into a personality flaw. Lily let out a small, frustrated sigh. This is why this won't work if you stay close-minded, she said. You're making this about you. It is about me. She opened her mouth to respond, but Ryan cut in. Look, let's slow this down. Nobody is forcing you to do anything. We just want you to understand that this arrangement is happening. Happening. The word echoed in my head. You've already decided, I said quietly. Yes, he admitted, because backing out now would hurt everyone. I laughed again, but this time it came out hollow. Everyone, I asked. Or just you two? Ryan shifted uncomfortably. You're being dramatic. That was it. That was the moment something in me snapped, not loudly, not explosively, but cleanly, like a rope being cut. I reached for my phone. What are you doing? Lily asked sharply. I didn't answer. My fingers were already moving. I scrolled past messages, past work emails, past family group chats until I found the number I needed. Ryan's face changed. Emily, he said, standing up now. Don't do anything you'll regret. I looked up at him. I already regret marrying you. That shut him up. The phone rang once. Twice. Then, hey, sweetheart, my dad said. Everything okay? Lily went pale. Dad, I said, keeping my voice steady with everything I had left. I need to tell you something. Ryan has decided to start dating Lily. While he's still married to me. Silence exploded in the room. Emily, Lily whispered. Don't. But it was too late. What did you just say? My dad asked, his voice calm in that dangerous way that meant he was already furious. Ryan stepped forward, hands raised like he was about to negotiate. Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding. There hasn't, I said. They've been planning it for weeks. There's a schedule. Another pause. Then my dad said, slowly, put me on speaker. I did. For the first time since this nightmare began, Ryan didn't look confident. Lily's eyes darted between us, panic bleeding through her composure. And as my father began to speak, asking questions Ryan clearly wasn't prepared to answer, I realized something important. They had built this entire fantasy on the assumption that I would stay quiet. They never considered what would happen if I refused to protect their secret. My dad didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Ryan, he said through the phone, each word measured. Are you telling me that you're involved with my younger daughter, while still married to my older daughter? Ryan swallowed. I could see his throat move. Sir, that's not exactly. Answer the question. My dad interrupted. Lily grabbed Ryan's arm, squeezing hard. Dad, please, she said, her voice suddenly small. It's not what it sounds like. Then explain it, Dad said, slowly. Ryan cleared his throat and slipped into that familiar tone, the one he used in meetings, the one that made people think he was reasonable just because he sounded calm. What we're exploring is a consensual, ethical relationship structure. There's been a lot of research. I didn't ask about research, Dad said flatly. I asked if you're betraying my daughter. The word betraying hung in the air. Lily's composure cracked. Why is everyone acting like I did something wrong? She burst out. I didn't steal anyone. Feelings just happen. Feelings don't make schedules, I said quietly. She spun toward me. You're twisting this.
No, irreplía.
I'm finally seeing it. Dad spoke again. Emily, he said softer now. Are you safe there? The question hit me harder than everything else combined. I don't think so, I admitted. There was a pause. Then, pack a bag. Come to my place tonight. Ryan stepped forward. That's unnecessary, he said quickly. Running away won't solve anything. My dad's voice dropped. You don't get to tell my daughter what she needs right now. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Real or practiced, I couldn't tell anymore. So that's it, she cried. You're just taking her side without hearing mine? I've heard enough, Dad said. And I haven't even asked the most important question yet. Ryan frowned. Which is, how long has this really been going on? The silence answered for them. Lily looked away first. Weeks, she said finally. Maybe longer. I felt something tear inside my chest. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. While you were living in my house, I said, eating my food. You weren't exactly using the space, she shot back. You were always working. Ryan flinched at that, but didn't contradict her. Dad exhaled slowly. Emily, he said, go upstairs. Pack what you need. Don't argue. Don't explain. I'll stay on the line. I nodded, even though my hands were shaking. As I walked toward the stairs, I could hear Ryan's voice dropping, urgent now. This is getting out of hand, he said. We can fix this. No, I said without turning around. You broke it. Upstairs, my bedroom felt unfamiliar, like I was standing in someone else's life. I pulled out a suitcase and started throwing clothes into it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from Ryan. From Lily.
I didn't open them.
When I came back downstairs, suitcase in hand, Ryan was pacing. You're overreacting, he said. Your dad is emotional. He doesn't understand modern relationships. My dad understands loyalty, I replied. Lily stood near the door, arms crossed tightly over her chest. You're making a huge mistake, she said. You're blowing up your marriage because you can't handle change. I met her eyes.
No.
I'm leaving because I finally understand who you are. She scoffed. You've always thought you were better than me. That stung, but not the way she wanted it to. No, I said. I just never thought you'd do this to me. Dad's voice came through the phone one last time, firm and clear. Emily, are you ready? Yes, I said. I walked past them without another word, out the front door and into the night. As I drove toward my dad's house, my phone buzzed again, and again on the passenger seat. I didn't look. Because somewhere between the schedule and the excuses, between my sister's accusations and my husband's silence, I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. And whatever they were trying to build together, it would no longer be built on my silence. I didn't sleep much at my dad's house. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that color-coded schedule, blue for me, pink for Lily, like I'd been reduced to a time slot in my own marriage. Morning light crept in anyway, thin and unforgiving, and with it came the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop on the nightstand. 17 messages from Ryan, 8 from Lily. I didn't open a single one. Dad was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs, coffee poured, jaw tight. He looked up at me and softened just a little. You okay? I don't know, I said honestly. But I will be. The doorbell rang before he could respond. We froze. Dad glanced toward the front door, then back at me. Stay here, he said. Let me handle this. I followed him anyway, close enough to hear, far enough to stay behind him. When he opened the door, Ryan stood on the porch, hair perfectly combed, holding a slim folder like he was late for a meeting. Lily wasn't with him. That felt deliberate. Mr. Harris, Ryan began smoothly. Thank you for seeing me. I think there's been a lot of emotional escalation and I'd really like to. You have 2 minutes, Dad said. Talk. Ryan blinked, then launched in. I love your daughter, he said, nodding toward me without looking. I really do. But the truth is, our marriage hasn't been healthy for a long time.
She's distant.
She works constantly. I tried to communicate, but she shut down. I felt my hands curl into fists. I was lonely, he continued. And Lily, she listened. She understood me. Is it really my fault that I responded to someone who made me feel valued? Dad didn't react. He just waited. Ryan pressed on. What we're proposing isn't cheating. It's honest, ethical, progressive. There are experts who... That's enough, Dad said quietly. Ryan faltered. Sir? Dad stepped aside just enough for me to be fully visible. Say all that again, he said, but look at my daughter this time. Ryan finally met my eyes. For a split second, I saw something like fear. You blamed me, I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. You stood here and blamed me for your choice to pursue my sister. I'm explaining context, he said quickly. No, I said. You're rewriting history. I stepped forward. You didn't ask for counseling. You didn't ask for space. You didn't ask for honesty. You made a plan. With my sister. In my house. And then you presented it to me like a finished deal. Ryan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Dad crossed his arms. You're done here. Wait, Ryan said, panic finally breaking through his calm mask. Emily, please. We can still fix this. Don't throw away 7 years, because of one mistake. One mistake. I repeated. You didn't trip and fall into this. You chose it every day. His voice dropped. You're being emotional. I laughed a short, bitter sound. And you're being exposed. Dad opened the door wider. Leave. Ryan stood there, stunned, clutching that folder like it might save him. Then he turned and walked down the steps, shoulders slumped, confidence gone. The door closed. I leaned back against the wall, breath shaking out of me in a rush. Dad put a hand on my shoulder. That, he said gently, is the last conversation you'll ever have with him without a lawyer present. I nodded. For the first time since Ryan opened that laptop, I felt something shift, not relief exactly, but clarity. The kind that comes after the worst is finally spoken out loud. They tried to make me feel small, replaceable, difficult. But standing there in my father's hallway, I understood the truth with painful certainty. I wasn't losing my marriage. I was escaping a lie. Ryan left that morning, and with him went whatever version of my life I'd been trying to save. The house didn't feel quieter after the door closed. It felt clearer. Like a storm had finally passed and left everything stripped down to what was real. I stayed at my dad's place for 2 days. In that time, I didn't answer a single call from Ryan. I blocked Lily's number before she could leave another voicemail about family and misunderstandings. On Monday morning, I met with a lawyer. By the afternoon, the word divorce stopped feeling like a threat and started feeling like a plan. Ryan tried one last time. A long email. No apologies, just explanations. He wrote about how hard this had been for him, how confused he was, how he hoped I'd eventually understand that what he did came from a place of honesty. I read it once, then closed it without replying. I didn't owe him closure. He'd taken enough already. Lily never apologized either. The last thing she sent me before I blocked her was a message that read, I hope one day you'll stop punishing me for loving someone. I stared at those words for a long time, then deleted them. Because loving someone doesn't require destroying another person to do it. A week later, I went back to the house. My house. I packed the rest of my things while Ryan was at work. Every room held memories, some good, most now tainted, but I didn't linger. I took what mattered. I left the rest behind. As I walked out for the final time, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I was sad, yes. Hurt. Still grieving the life I thought I had. But underneath all of that was something steadier. Stronger. Relief. Because the truth was, I'd been shrinking for a long time. Quietly making myself smaller to keep the peace, blaming myself for someone else's unhappiness, confusing endurance with love. Losing Ryan didn't break me. It woke me up. I don't know what Lily and Ryan will do next. I don't care. Their story no longer gets to overlap with mine. What I do know is this. Being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Walking away is not failure. And love that requires your silence is not love at all. I didn't lose my husband that night. I found myself.